Incredible journey. Homeless man discovers life-changing connection with comatose billionaire. Charlie's heart raced as he navigated the bustling streets of Chicago. The air was thick with the scent of roasted coffee and diesel fumes, and the distant laughter of families shopping filled his ears, coating the city with a bittersweet veneer. Here he was a veteran, a homeless man, wearing yesterday's clothes and carrying the weight of his past like armor. No one looked twice at the filthy blanket wrapped around his shoulders or the scars etched deep into his skin, each one telling a story of bravery and pain. His home was a weather-beaten tent by the river where he dreamed of better days while watching the beautiful skyline, a life out of reach. Every day was a battle for survival, and he fought against an invisible enemy, PTSD. He managed to find a sliver of solace at the community center, a place buzzing with the laughter and tears of fellow outcasts sharing their stories. They were a makeshift family, each person stitched together by their struggles: a mother, a former athlete, and a kid who had lost everything. He soaked in their tales as they breathed life into his fading hopes. But the city outside continued its indifference, luxury storefronts taunting him with their gleaming promise of a world he couldn't enter. Meanwhile, in a dazzling room filled with silence, Jonathan lay in a hospital bed, his body battered from a wild party where joy turned tragic. Curtains of opulence draped around him, a stark contrast to Charlie's world. Jonathan's life, once rolling in success, now felt stale and lifeless. Family and friends drifted in and out, their conversations heavy with concern, their glossy smiles masking fears of what the future held. But they couldn't see him, not really, lost in a perfect life that was nothing but a gilded cage. Everything changed when the community center organized a fundraiser. Charlie, with mismatched clothes and a smile that held more grit than grandeur, met Jonathan's family, an encounter that blurred the lines of their vastly different worlds. Unbeknownst to him, their interactions would ignite a flicker of connection that he never thought possible. Armed with a film camera passed down from his grandfather, he felt compelled to visit Jonathan. He snapped candid photos of the world outside, capturing beauty and hardness, laughter and sadness, revealing the profound humanity hidden behind both their experiences. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days turned into weeks, Charlie felt a growing urgency to express the struggles of those like him. Yet the community still eyed him with skepticism. They seemed irritated, more focused on keeping their reputation intact than listening to the words of a homeless man whose heart desperately longed for understanding. But in this fight, Charlie found new friends among the hospital staff, people willing to listen. They saw beyond his scars, igniting his hope to be recognized for what he endured, not dismissed as just another street dweller. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jonathan awakened, and the world tilted on its axis. The first time their eyes locked, it was electric, a silent scream of questions and unspoken truths. Would they forge a connection that shattered societal norms? As Charlie's world merged with Jonathan's, they stood on the precipice of discovery, both grappling with the haunting question of what it truly meant to live. Would their intertwining destinies bring forth healing, or would the weight of their worlds pull them apart once more? Charlie felt a rush of emotions as he locked eyes with Jonathan. A world of uncertainty hung between them, vibrating with possibilities. He couldn't shake the feeling that a bridge was being built, an unsteady but vital connection that could lead them both to uncharted territory. The sterile scent of the hospital surrounded him, but it was somehow replaced by the rich, deep aroma of hope. Jonathan blinked, and for a moment, Charlie almost thought he was seeing the spark of recognition. Time stretched, urging Charlie to break the silence that hung heavy in the air. "Hey, you," Charlie started, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm Charlie." A puzzled expression danced across Jonathan's face, and then it melted into something softer, almost vulnerable. A small, quick nod was all the response Charlie got. But it was enough. This was their first step, their first leap into the unknown. Days passed with Jonathan slowly regaining strength. Doctors said that he needed stimulation, that it was crucial for his recovery. Charlie became a regular presence at his bedside, sharing stories of life outside the hospital walls. He talked about the parks where children played, the vibrant colors of graffiti on old buildings, and the raw honesty of strangers he encountered on the streets. His voice trembled sometimes, especially when he spoke of his life before homelessness, the laughter of friends, the camaraderie from his military days, and the dreams that once seemed attainable. Jonathan listened, his brow furrowed as if he were straining to grasp everything Charlie said. Occasionally, a flicker of emotion passed through his eyes, whether recognition or empathy. Charlie couldn't tell. He leaned closer, pouring his spirit into every word, hoping to unlock whatever was trapped inside Jonathan. In return, Jonathan sometimes attempted to communicate. A twitch of a finger, a flickering eyelid, it was like they were both learning a new language. Every small gesture felt monumental. As Charlie poured out his heart, he sensed Jonathan's struggle to respond, as if the real world had muffled him for too long. But the connection didn't stop there. The hospital staff grew intrigued by the two men, the millionaire and the veteran. They often caught glimpses of Charlie lifting Jonathan's spirits, and for the first time, the hum of gossip shifted from skepticism to something warmer. "You give him life," one nurse remarked one afternoon, a touch of admiration shining through her usually professional demeanor. That simple acknowledgement ignited something inside Charlie. It was more than just being seen. It was affirmation that their bond had depth, that it could defy the barriers society had drawn between them. As Christmas approached, the streets transformed into a magical wonderland dotted with lights. Charlie wandered through the city, tugging on the furry edges of the budget coat he wore, its every patch reminding him of harder times. Charlie fought back tears at the joyful gatherings around him, families laughing, friends sharing gifts, and couples embracing. In the midst of the chaos, he thought of Jonathan's progress, that perhaps they were two sides of the same coin. Different lives, but driven by the same innate desire to connect. But that connection brought new challenges. The weight of expectations settled heavily on both men. Charlie sensed Jonathan's increasing anxiety about leaving the sterile environment of the hospital. The fear of failure loomed over them. Could they truly bridge their worlds, or would the struggle to understand each other eventually tear them apart? As Charlie reflected on the journey they had embarked on, he scheduled a meeting with Jonathan's family to discuss the healing power of their bond. Their history was intertwined, yet Charlie questioned, was he strong enough to fight for this friendship? A wave of fear washed over him, but he felt a flicker of determination ignite as well. What awaited them on the other side of this connection? Challenges, yes, but perhaps unexpected joys too. Could their meeting change futures beyond their own? As Charlie prepared to confront Jonathan's family, a question lingered in the air: what would happen when truth and vulnerability collided head-on? Meeting with Jonathan's family loomed large in Charlie's mind, an impending storm of emotions swirling within him. The hospital room was quiet today, with Jonathan lost in a deep sleep, his peaceful face a reminder of how far he had come. Charlie picked at the frayed edges of the blanket, feeling the weight of their unseen journey pressing down on his chest. He had spent hours rehearsing what to say, wanting so desperately to convey the bond he had formed with Jonathan over these past few weeks. But how could he explain their connection, the pulse of friendship they were nurturing as if it were a fragile seed in winter soil? Their backgrounds felt like walls of brick and mortar that threatened to separate them once more. But Charlie clung to the belief that vulnerability could break those barriers. When the clock finally struck for the hour for the family to visit, the air crackled with tension. Charlie felt a knot in his stomach as he approached the waiting area. Jonathan's mother, a stately woman in her 50s, sat stiffly, her eyes puffy from sleepless nights. She clutched a framed photo of Jonathan from happier times, the edges worn from years of love. Hi, Charlie said, his voice shaky. I'm Charlie, I've been visiting Jonathan. Her gaze flicked up, an odd mix of curiosity and protective defensiveness. Charlie, the one everyone's been talking about? He nodded, meeting her eyes, searching for some warmth in the chill that surrounded her. It's been an experience, a real journey, you know? Yes, he is a fighter. The corners of her mouth twitched downward, then quickly back, as if her composure was a fragile mask. Our Jonathan has always been strong, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But he needs more than strength. He needs family. For a moment, the silence stretched between them, an unspoken question hanging heavily in the air. Charlie swallowed hard. I've been sharing stories with him, trying to help him come back to us. His heart raced as he took a step closer. I want you to know that he responds to me. I feel like he hears me. Can you guarantee that? Jonathan's father interrupted, his voice gruff and low, glaring at Charlie with suspicion. Can you really pull him from this? I can't guarantee anything, Charlie admitted, his voice gaining strength as he shared his truth. But I believe there is a part of him still here, and I want to help him find it again. Mrs. Mercer's eyes filled with unshed tears while her husband's jaw tightened. The air thickened with unspoken fears, the kind of fears that gnawed at hearts already fractured by uncertainty. Charlie felt their pain, mirrored perfectly in his own past experiences. The discouragement of being seen as less than enough was all too familiar. I want to help bring your son back to you, he finally said, holding their gazes. But that requires trust, time to build something together. As the three exchanged heavy glances, Charlie felt the energy shift. It was subtle yet powerful, like the first flicker of hope breaking through a long winter. Just then, the hospital door swung open, and a nurse stepped in with a gentle smile. It's time for Jonathan's therapy. He might respond to all of you being here. Charlie felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. This was the moment of truth. They followed the nurse to Jonathan's room, each step echoing a different story waiting to be told. Charlie's heart raced. What would happen when they all stood by Jonathan's side, raw and vulnerable? Could love and connection ignite the spark of healing he believed was still inside Jonathan? As they entered Jonathan's room, Charlie felt the weight of both hope and fear pressing down, each heart beating as one in anticipation. Would they find their way through the darkness into the light, or would the walls that divided them only grow taller? In that moment of breathless stillness, he wondered, what kind of revelation awaited them when they reached out to one another? Would it be enough to bridge the chasm that separated their worlds? The moment they stepped into Jonathan's room, the air shifted again. The familiar beeping of machines surrounded them, a rhythmic reminder of life fighting to persist. Jonathan lay peacefully, the tubes snaking from him, a stark contrast against the softness of his blankets. Charlie took a breath, steadying himself. He could feel the energy of both families pebbling the space with a mixture of hope and despair. Mrs. Mercer moved forward tentatively, her fingers brushing against Jonathan's hand. She sighed softly, and Charlie could see her fighting to hold back tears. Oh, my baby! Her voice cracked, and for a moment, the weight of her sorrow filled the room. Jonathan's father stood back, arms crossed tightly over his chest, watching as if he could somehow guard his son even in this state. The tension was palpable, and Charlie felt the urgency to break through, to spark something, anything. I've been reading to him, Charlie offered, shifting toward the bedside. He loved adventure stories as a kid. I thought maybe it would bring back some memories. He glanced at Mrs. Mercer, desperate for her approval. Her nod was slight but imbued with a flicker of gratitude. With newfound determination, Charlie began to speak, weaving a story of heroes and treacherous journeys, of friendships made along the way. He described a young boy who faced storms and mountains, but always found his way back home. As his voice filled the silent room, Jonathan's face remained tranquil, yet Charlie felt a pull in the atmosphere. Every few moments he looked to Jonathan's parents. Their expressions shifted from guarded skepticism to a cautious openness. Mrs. Mercer stroked Jonathan's hand as if channeling her warmth into him. Can you hear him, sweetheart? She whispered, her voice trembling. Charlie pressed on, his words flowing like a torrent, fueled by hope. He colored the adventures with vivid descriptions, painting the world beyond the hospital walls. And when the boy reached the summit, he realized it wasn't just about the destination. It was the people he met along the way that made it all worthwhile. Suddenly, Jonathan's fingers twitched. The movement was subtle, nearly imperceptible, but it set off a cascade of gasps. "Did you see that?" Mrs. Mercer exclaimed, her voice brightening with disbelief. "He moved." Charlie's heart raced. Had they reached him? He leaned closer, feeling the warmth radiate from Jonathan's body. "Jonathan, if you can hear me, it's okay to come back. We're right here and we believe in you." The beep of the heart monitor picked up pace. It was a fragile but thrilling rhythm, as if Jonathan's heart was responding to the stirring words of connection. Charlie focused intently on Jonathan. The boy made it home. He faced his fears and found strength within. "Just like you can." Mr. Mercer uncrossed his arms, stepping closer to the bed. There was a crack in his stoic facade, a glimmer of vulnerability breaking through. "Jonathan, son," he encouraged, voice thick with emotion. "Fight for us, fight for yourself." As their small group united around Jonathan, Charlie felt something bloom in the space between them, a collective hope forged from family and friendships. This was bigger than Charlie ever expected. They weren't just supporting Jonathan. They were rebuilding a bridge that connected their lives. But then, the machines beeped erratically, and the energy in the room shifted again. A nurse rushed in, her brow furrowed as she assessed the situation. "We need to stabilize him." "Step back," she instructed urgently. Charlie's heart plummeted. Had they gone too far too fast? Would the glimmers of hope they had seen vanish just as quickly? In the chaos of the moment, Charlie locked eyes with Mrs. Mercer. She was praying, her hands clasped tight. "Please, Jonathan," she whispered, and in that moment, Charlie felt the weight of everyone's dreams resting on Jonathan's fragile state. As they waited, breaths collectively held, Charlie wondered. Was this the moment they reached him, or the moment they lost him again? Would Jonathan rise to meet them, or would he slip back into silence? The beeping intensified, a rapid staccato that pulsated through the room like a frantic heartbeat, drowning Charlie's cautious optimism in a tide of anxiety. Mrs. Mercer's face was strained, her lips moving in an almost silent prayer. Mr. Mercer hovered close to the bed, his expression morphing from concern to sheer desperation as he squeezed Jonathan's hand with a grip that suggested he was willing to pull him back from the edge, however metaphorical it might be. "Stay with us, Jonathan," he murmured, voice thick with emotion. "You're stronger than this. We need you." Charlie felt a surge of energy, almost electric, coursing through him as he placed his hand over Jonathan's, feeling the heat radiate from his skin, reminding him that there was still life in that frail body. The medical staff overwhelmed the room, assertive and focused, yet within the chaos, he could hear the whisper of hope weaving through each urgent command. "And for here, check the ventilator." A nurse barked, but another's voice, softer, punctured the fray, a gentle reminder of humanity in all the turmoil. "Let us keep talking to him. He needs to know we're here." Charlie felt compelled to speak again. He could see Jonathan's face, drawn and pale, yet there was a flicker in the space around them that felt tangible. "Jonathan, listen to us. Remember those wild adventures we talked about?" He leaned closer, his voice firm yet gentle, desperate to break through the surface. "There were dragons, remember? And every time you felt afraid, there was always a friend by your side. You fought them off together. You're not alone now, buddy. We're right here." Mrs. Mercer placed a gentle hand on Charlie's shoulder. The gratitude in her eyes anchored him during that storm. "Yes, darling, just like we talked about. You're coming back to us. You're our hero," she urged, her voice wavering but full of unwavering love. Suddenly, a tremor quaked through Jonathan's body. The machines continued their frantic symphony, but underneath the chaos, an unmistakable sign flickered the tiniest movement of his eyelids. The world narrowed, concentrating solely on that single moment. "Look, his eyelids," Mrs. Mercer gasped, tears welling in her eyes. Charlie's breath caught in his throat. Could it be? Was Jonathan truly threading his way back? "Jonathan, if you can hear us, blink again," he urged, urgency spilling from every word. Another slight flutter from his eyes. "Yes." Mr. Mercer's face lit with renewed vigor. You hear us, son. Keep fighting. His hands shook slightly as he reached closer, inching forward as if trying to pull Jonathan out of the shadows of his mind. Just then, the nurse, who had earlier instructed them to step back, glanced at the monitors with growing concern. We need to stabilize his heart rate. Hold on. Charlie felt a knot tighten in his chest. Just as they thought they were breaking through, the room felt like it spun again into uncertainty. No, he whispered, feeling the weight of fear creep back in. Was this progress slipping away? The urgency of the moment pushed against him like an ocean tide, and he fought to keep his focus. Jonathan, keep fighting. You're not done with us yet. The words poured from him like a plea, thick with emotion. And then, against the litany of machines, there was another twitch, the beginnings of a smile, or so it seemed to Charlie. Was this a vision of hope? Or was he imagining it, driven by desperation? As Charlie locked eyes with Mrs. Mercer, he could see the glimmer of hope mixed with an echo of fear. Please, Jonathan. They echoed in unison, voices trembling. In a world where the line between life and death felt impossibly thin, Charlie felt his heart race with the question that lingered in the air. Would Jonathan rally into the light, or would the darkness pull him further away, leaving them in this fraught limbo? Their breaths hung heavy, as anticipation ticked along like an unseen clock, counting down the moments that could change everything. The tension in the room was suffocating. The monitors beeped in a syncopated rhythm that echoed the uncertainty plaguing Charlie. He fought against the urge to close his eyes and let the fears of the situation take him away. Instead, he focused on Jonathan's face, the flickering hope keeping him grounded. Please, buddy, he whispered, his voice cracking. You have to fight for us. The room buzzed with a frantic energy, but time felt frozen as everyone leaned in closer, their breaths held in a collective prayer. Mrs. Mercer's eyes were locked on her son, her face a canvas of urgent love and deep concern. Charlie could see how every moment stretched out, each blink from Jonathan becoming monumental, a sign that brought them one step closer. Then, the flicker of movement he thought he saw transformed into something more definitive. Jonathan's eyelids began to lift. Charlie's heart raced. Dread and hope swirled together in a chaotic dance. Jonathan, if you can hear us, squeeze our hands, he urged, his tone rising higher, brittle with barely contained enthusiasm. For a second, it seemed like the world paused, all eyes on the frail figure in the bed. Then, a faint but unmistakable squeeze enveloped Charlie's fingers. It was weak, but there. A wave of emotions crashed over him. Yes, yes, he gasped, turning to Mrs. Mercer, who burst into quiet sobs of relief. Sweetheart, can you do it again? She pleaded softly, her raw hope igniting the atmosphere. Just one more time. And then, as if powered by the sound of their love, there was another squeeze. A little stronger. Another flicker of hope threaded through the room, bonds of encouragement building in the very air they breathed. See? Mr. Mercer leaned closer, his eyes wet but shining with fierce determination. That's it, son. Fight for your life. But just as they began to celebrate, the monitors flared again with sudden urgency, a warning that the fragile moment might break like glass. Stay calm, the nurse barked, fingers dancing over the keyboard at the station, eyes flicking from the screen to Jonathan's still form. We need to check vital signs. The tide of emotions churned again in Charlie. No, this couldn't be it. They had come too close, tasted too much hope to slip back into despair. He refused to let go. Jonathan was still fighting. Against the blur of medical voices, he bent closer. You're not alone, Jonathan. Remember our summer days at the lake? The adventures we imagined? The dreams we shared? Jonathan's eyelids fluttered, urgency ringing through him, like a bell cataloging every cherished memory. Charlie pressed forward, clinging to every flicker of life. You're still that brave kid. We're all here. Don't leave us. The atmosphere in the room was electric, alive with unspoken worries and promises. Jonathan's heart rate began to stabilize, the chaotic beeping easing into a more steady rhythm. Breaths that had been held in anticipation began to release just slightly, reluctant joy threading through the family. But reality pressed in. Would he truly come back? Would they get to hear Jonathan's laughter again? 5 minutes passed like an eternity. But then, finally, a voice broke through the chaotic noise of medical jargon. It was Jonathan's voice, barely above a whisper but full of surprise. Charlie? Charlie's heart surged at the sound, disbelief igniting hope anew. Yes, I'm right here. But Jonathan's next words caught them all off guard. What happened? Did I miss something? The collective gasp filled the room, a sudden shift from darkness into light, pointing straight toward a crossroads of understanding. And with that, a brand new reality began to unfold before them. What revelations lay hidden in Jonathan's mind? Would he remember the dreams or bear burdens he had yet to unveil? As everything hung in the balance, one haunting question emerged. What had Jonathan seen in that abyss between life and death? Charlie smiled wide, the weight of the world lifting just a little. You're back, Jonathan. You're back with us. Jonathan blinked, confusion knitting his brow. Back? What do you mean? His voice was small but vibrant, like a flame flickering back to life. Around them, the room buzzed with a mixture of awe and relief. Charlie glanced at Mrs. Mercer, her hands trembling with a blend of joy and worry. You were in a coma, she explained softly, her voice laced with tenderness. You gave us quite the scare. But you're safe now. You're awake. But what happened? Jonathan struggled to piece things together, his eyes darting uncertainly from Charlie to his parents. The atmosphere around them felt charged, each person holding their breath, fearing the truth might tumble everything back into darkness. You had an accident, Charlie began cautiously. A car hit you. You were fighting for your life. I was? Jonathan's gaze softened, fear giving way to curiosity. Why don't I remember anything? The question hung in the air, thick as fog. Mrs. Mercer reached for Jonathan's hand, squeezing it gently. You might remember slowly, sweetheart. Sometimes, things take time. But Charlie could see more than just confusion in Jonathan's eyes. A glimmer of awareness sparked there, something like recognition or fear of something unsaid. What are you hiding, Jonathan? He asked, his heart racing again, afraid of the answer that could bring darkness back. I saw something, Jonathan fumbled, glancing around as if he could grasp the elusive fragments of his experience. Before the darkness there were flashes, faces, places, emotions. They felt real, but they're fading. Flashes? Charlie echoed, his curiosity piquing even more. What kind of flashes? Jonathan pressed his lips together, searching for the right words. It's hard to describe. There were moments of happiness, some that felt heavy, sad. He paused, lost in thought. And there was a voice, it was calling me. A chill ran down Charlie's spine. Some unsettling instinct told him that this voice was not just a result of Jonathan's injuries. A voice? Whose voice? The question hung in the air, potent and alive. Whatever had been whispered to Jonathan in that shadowy place hinted at seams connecting them all in ways they hadn't yet understood. Charlie's emotions volleyed between fear and a desperate need to understand. I don't know. It was familiar yet strange, Jonathan finally replied, his voice tinged with frustration. It felt like before he could finish, the monitors beeped again, this time in a concerning rhythm. A flurry of nurses rushed into the room, forcing Charlie and Mrs. Mercer to take a step back. The air tensed, worry flooding back into their hearts, shrouding the small spear of hope they had once embraced. John's vitals are dropping, one nurse shouted, rushing to the side of the bed, flipping switches with practiced urgency. Jonathan, Charlie shouted, panic rising. As the chaos took over, Jonathan grasped at Charlie's hand, his gaze fierce. Charlie, don't let me go. Charlie's blood ran cold. How could he keep Jonathan here if he didn't know how? I'm here. We're all here. Don't you dare leave. In that moment, echoes of Jonathan's words about the voice lingered in Charlie's mind. A deeper understanding threaded through his heart. They were in the middle of an incredible journey together, one where each second pressed them closer to uncharted territory. But as the monitor's alarm sliced through the room, a haunting question emerged, one they weren't ready to face. What if the voice Jonathan heard was not only a light guiding him through darkness, but also a glimpse into a chilling truth yet to be revealed? A frenzied energy filled the room as nurses moved with urgency, the air thick with tension. Charlie's heart raced faster than he thought possible. Jonathan's grip on his hand felt fragile. Holding on like a single thread was all that anchored him to life. "Stay with me, John. Focus on my voice," Charlie pleaded, desperation lacing his words. He could feel his own pulse in his throat, a pit forming in his stomach. The beeping of the machines pulsed louder, matching the frantic beat of his heart. "Give him room," a nurse ordered, pushing Charlie gently aside. He stumbled back, his eyes fixed on Jonathan, who appeared more vulnerable by the second. The sight twisted something deep inside him, sending icy fear crawling up his spine. "Mom!" Jonathan's voice slipped from his lips, a desperate whisper. "Mom!" Mrs. Mercer rushed to his side, her face contorted in panic and love. "I'm here. Sweetheart. You're safe. Just stay with us." Tears spilled down her cheeks, glistening in the harsh light as the medical team worked. Every breath felt like a countdown. In the midst of all the chaos, Charlie noticed the flicker of something in Jonathan's eyes, a spark of determination. "Jonathan, remember that voice you heard?" he urged, as if speaking would reach past the chaos and back into the shadows of Jonathan's mind. "Hold on to it." "What did it say?" Jonathan's brow furrowed as his face contorted with effort. "It had said to find it. Find her," he gasped, his voice strained, but it cut through the chaos like a hot knife. The panic that had settled in Charlie's gut twisted tighter. "Who is her?" "Jonathan, who?" But before Jonathan could respond, his eyes fluttered as the nurses shouted out orders and phoned for specialists. "We're losing him. Increase the oxygen." Charlie felt the breath hitch in his throat. "Jonathan, please," Charlie yelled, the weight of the world pressing on him. "I'm not leaving you. We will find her together. You have to stay with me." Jonathan's eyes seemed to shimmer with that previous flicker of recognition. "Charlie," the flashes they're connected, he panted, his grip tightening around Charlie's hand. A surge of hope surged through Charlie's heart, driving away an inkling of despair. "Then focus, John. Tell me what you see. Who is she?" Jonathan's face twisted in concentration. Pain etched into his features as he struggled against the flood of darkness threatening to pull him back. I see her." The voice, she was calm, guiding, but there's something blocking me, a wall. Charlie felt every word vibrate through him like a desperate call to arms. If the voice spoke of someone important, perhaps it meant they still had a chance. "Break through it. We're with you. Remember how you came back to us? Push through." With a deep inhale, Jonathan began to tremble, color draining from his face. Suddenly, the doctor arrived, swiftly assessing the situation and barking out orders as Charlie's world started to spiral again. "Stay with me, Jonathan. Stay with us. Don't look away," he cried, voice raw. Amongst the sound of devices beeping and chaos swirling, there was a whisper that filled the space. Charlie leaned in closer, praying that somehow they could hear each other amidst the storm. Jonathan's eyes widened for a brief moment, a mixture of terror and understanding. And then, with a gasp, he said, "Charlie, I know where she is." Charlie's heart dropped. The walls of their reality pressed in around them, the stakes skyrocketing higher than he could have prepared for. "Where? Who is she?" But just as sudden as the revelation flickered to life, the lines on the monitors began to flatline, the chaos collapsing into a single, haunting note that resonated through Charlie's chest. He was ready to fight, to dive deeper into whatever darkness threatened to take Jonathan away from him. But as he looked into Jonathan's eyes, a chilling uncertainty unfurled. What did his friend know, and how far were they willing to go to find her? "Hold on. I'm not losing you," he shouted, as the room plunged into uncertainty. Would the answers break them, or lead them to salvation? The alarms blared again, high-pitched and frantic, tearing through the room like a siren. Charlie swallowed hard. The body he gripped was nothing like the vibrant spirit he cherished. It felt cold and distant, as if slipping away into an unreachable chasm. "No, no," he shouted, gripping Jonathan's hand tighter, as if the sheer force of his will could tether him back to reality. Nurses swarmed, and the doctor barked further orders, but the sound faded into a dull roar in Charlie's ears. Fear churned in his gut, replacing the words he wanted to scream. He could barely breathe, each exhale shattering his determination to hold on. "Jonathan, come back to me." Charlie's voice cracked with desperation, volumes of emotions threatening to spill out. "You have so much to fight for. Please tell me about her. Just tell me, and we'll find her together." Jonathan's face contorted, his expression a mix of pain and concentration, as he fought against the grasping shadows that wanted to take him away. His voice was so faint, but Charlie leaned in closer, his heart hammering against his chest. Suddenly, Jonathan gasped, his breath hitching. "Charlie, the light, it's blinding. You can't." Panic flickered behind his eyes. "I need you. Don't let me go." Tears stung Charlie's eyes, but he couldn't break away. "I'm right here. I promise I won't leave you. Think about your mom, think about us. We need to find her." The room began to spin, the reality of the situation collapsing in on him. The sounds of the machines morphed into a cacophony, an orchestra of chaos against the impending silence that loomed. Yet, in that moment something shifted. An almost imperceptible warmth radiated between their hands, a sensation that whispered of hope and connection. Remember, Jonathan's breathing steadied, and for a moment, Charlie saw a flicker of life break through the haze. "Remember the park? That picnic?" "Of course I do," Charlie exclaimed, remembering the laughter over sandwiches. The way Jonathan's face lit up recalling a joke he'd heard. "The day we painted that sign for the charity race. You were so proud." Jonathan nodded slightly, the effort visibly taxing him. "She was there, her name, the woman, tell me her name," Charlie urged. But the moment fractured. Jonathan's eyes rolled back slightly, the connection weakening just as Charlie felt a surge of clarity. It was as if the shadows lingering nearby began to retreat, leaving a persistent silence that settled around them. "Don't drive me," Jonathan gasped. Tears now streamed down his face. "You can do this, find her." A loud crash of the door bursting open jolted both Charlie and Jonathan. A figure pushed through a tall person in a dark coat. It was someone Charlie recognized. His breath hitched as recognition crashed into him like a wave. "What were they doing here?" "Get out," I said. "Get out," Charlie shouted, flicking a glare at the intruder. The person hesitated, scanning the frenzied scene. "You don't belong here." "Charlie, wait." Jonathan's weak voice drew his attention back, a feeble protest laced with urgency. "It's they can help. Help?" A whirlwind of confusion hit Charlie like a truck. "Help? Are you serious? Do you even know them?" His instincts screamed danger while Jonathan's quiet strength pulled him in another direction. "Trust me," Jonathan pleaded, his eyes now heavy-lidded. Charlie fought against his protective instincts, but the weight of Jonathan's situation pressed hard. Okay. But you better be right," he said, shaking with uncertainty. Each inhale felt heavy, burdened with the tenuous threads of life that hung around them as the figure stepped closer, and the tension thickened like a storm closing in. Jonathan's fingers squeezed Charlie's one last time. "It's time to find her." The room seemed to hold its breath, as Charlie leaned in closer, torn between fear and hope. Could this stranger really hold the key to unlocking the mysteries swirling around Jonathan? Or was it just another flash of deception in a world that seemed to turn upside down with every heartbeat? "Are you ready?" he whispered, into the chaos, heart racing at the precipice of the unknown. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Jonathan lay on the hospital bed, his body now a battleground between life and uncertainty. Charlie gripped his hand tight, the warmth a fragile reminder of the connection they had forged against all odds. At that moment, a click echoed in the hallway. The moment of truth had arrived. The door swung open, and a tall figure stepped in, draped in shadows yet lit by purpose. Charlie's instincts flared, but Jonathan's voice called through the fog of doubt. "Trust me," he barely managed, the strain evident. The tall figure emerged into the light, revealing a familiar face. Sarah, Jonathan's childhood friend. A name already woven into the fabric of Jonathan's memories. "I'm here to help him," she declared, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "He needs to know the truth." "Truth?" Charlie snapped, balancing between protectiveness and a desperate need for answers. "What do you mean?" Sarah's gaze shifted from Charlie to Jonathan, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "He has been searching for someone. The flashes you both talked about? I can help him remember. It's crucial, Charlie. It's about his past and the choices he has made." Jonathan stirred, the faintest flicker of recognition lighting his tired eyes as he locked onto Sarah's. "Find her," he murmured again, the urgency palpable. "Who?" Charlie asked, his heart racing faster, fear pressing like weight on his chest. "Who is she?" Sarah closed the space between them, her voice low and calming. "A woman, Charlie. She was there during his darkest days. The one voice he heard while he was lost in the coma. She can guide him back to himself. It's time to confront what's buried deep inside." The room hummed with uncertainty. Moments stretched, and Charlie felt the wall of fear crack just a little. If Sarah could shine light on Jonathan's shadows, perhaps they could turn the tide as everything hung between them. Charlie took a deep breath, allowing a sliver of hope to break through. "Then let us do it," he said, determination firming his resolve. "But we need to be careful." "Exactly," Sarah affirmed, inching closer to Jonathan, as if their shared history was a bridge connecting the two worlds. "Jonathan, I need you to focus on the memories. Start from the beginning. I'll be right here." With a nod that seemed small yet powerful, Jonathan closed his eyes. "I see flickers faces," he whispered, his breaths shallow and quickening. Charlie held tight to his hand, wishing to anchor him, to pull him from the brink of despair. "Keep going, John," he encouraged, feeling the tension melt from the room with each word Jonathan uttered. "Stay with us." "I remember a park," Jonathan's voice cracked. "There were children and laughter. She was there." A connection brightened the space, threading them together in a fragile web of hope. "Who was she?" Sarah coaxed gently. "My anchor," Jonathan said, emotion flooding back into his voice. "She always knew how to pull me from the darkness." Charlie's heart surged at the thought. "And now we'll do the same," he whispered fiercely. "I can feel her," Jonathan said, the strength in his words cascading like a tide. "But there's pain, so much pain. I ran from it. I thought I left it behind." Sarah leaned closer, urgency sharpening her words. "Jonathan, you need to forgive what happened. That's the only way to heal." "Forgive," he echoed, breaking free from the silence that had surrounded him for so long. "I'm scared." "Of what?" Sarah pushed with kindness. "Of facing it again." Jonathan opened his eyes, meeting Charlie's gaze with raw desperation. "But I can't ignore her call. I owe her more than I've given." Charlie squeezed Jonathan's hand tighter, void of any ounce of hesitation. "Together we can face it. All of us." Then, the moment thickened. Jonathan's heart grew steadier, his breathing deeper. I remember her face." A smile broke through the remnants of fear. "Her name is Lily." The name echoed in the room, igniting warmth that tinged every heartbeat surrounding them. "Lily," Charlie whispered, the sound rolling off his tongue as if calling upon an old friend. "Yes," Jonathan insisted, his belief anchoring them all. "And I see her, Charlie. I see her coming back to me." In that instant, a magnetic pull filled the room, emotions weaving through each of them, a tapestry of hope that bridged not just trauma, but a profound understanding of family, love, and the human spirit. Charlie listened closely as Jonathan shared details, memories rushing back like an unspooled thread that had tangled for so long. As Jonathan spoke, Charlie felt the shadows retreating one after the other. He understood. It wasn't just about finding Lily. This journey was about healing not just Jonathan, but everyone intertwined in his existence. It was about transforming pain into purpose, finding their way home. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow through the hospital window, reminiscent of the cascading dreams they had once woven under the vast Chicago sky while battling their own storms. "I'm not afraid anymore," Jonathan whispered, a touching sense of peace wrapping around them. "I'm ready." Tears streamed silently down Sarah's cheeks. And in that unspoken moment, all three sensed it, the choice to abandon fear for healing was theirs to make. Charlie took a gentle breath, lifting his head and meeting their eyes, a thrill coursing through him. "Let us find her together, Jonathan. Let us bring her home." As they stood united around the swirling uncertainties, they could feel the warmth of connection infusing the chaos. It didn't matter what lay ahead together. They could conquer anything. In that moment, they knew redemption awaited, with every shared memory and every passing story woven with threads of love stronger than the scars that once divided them. This was the beginning of a transformative journey, one that would transcend fear, unveiling a future filled with hope, healing, and the beauty of true connection. So, dear friends, remember this. The journey isn't just about finding someone lost. It's about rediscovering yourselves in the process. Live with love. Search for connection. Embrace your story, shared or individual, for it brings you strength and light. Now, before you leave, don't let this spark fade. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional conclusion. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. You need to support this channel and join this journey of storytelling. Don't wait not even one more second to share, and let us illuminate our paths together.